everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Groovy Moo. This week, we are talking about the influence of Taylor Swift, so let's get moving. Starting off, which era would you live in if you had to pick a permanent personality?
Contrary to popular belief, I'm quite outwardly outspoken, quite snappy, some would say maybe have a bit of an attitude, a little bit of a brat. But my answer to this would be lover, which is like the complete opposite of that. Can't help it, sorry. Internal battles.
No, I get that, because I feel like most people would expect me to say reputation. It's traditionally I've done stuff that people are like, why are you so just almost too confident with some things, and I'll fight that to the last thing. But I actually feel like at the moment it's folklore because I'm just sort of off doing my own thing, like doing my creative thing, and that's just how folklore feels to me. Um, I feel like folklore has different meanings for different people, but yeah.
I see my brain immediately goes into like the marketing side of
I
the
know.
scarcity, and I understand why she does it, but I know that like a lot of fans will think it's just greedy for her to do it, which I do understand that perspective. Having so many different variants of one album can be deemed as greedy. I understand that, but from a marketing perspective, that is what pulls in the numbers, that is what gets the money, that is how to sell your music, which is ultimately that's her job, to
Mm.
sell music. And that's what she does, and she does it very well, otherwise she wouldn't be like the biggest artist in the world. That point is arguable, I suppose, depending on your opinion. I'm not saying she's the best thing in the world, I'm not saying she's the worst thing in the world. It's not that. I'm just saying, based on numbers and statistics and how well she sells the music, she does a very good job at it.
Yeah. And I think that's why there are a lot of courses popping up where you can study her marketing. It's because it is strong. You've got the collectability of all of those variants. You've got she builds entire worlds with her eras, which is like giving the audience an opportunity to really feel connected. But then she's also got these fan events, fan spaces, so it just all connects into one big world of the era. And so I agree with what you mean, like depending on how you look on it, it can look kind of greedy, but it's not because multiple other artists are also doing the same thing. There just seems to be a different dialogue around Taylor Swift versus everyone else who was doing it. Some some musicians have more variants where there's maybe one change. At least her variants have a noticeable difference.
I think that ties well in with like when you talk about how she builds like different worlds around everything, that being tied in with the Eras tour and obviously sectioning everything out by like such noticeable different eras. Like a lot of artists still have that like consistent sound and you know who's doing what, even if they've got different visuals, different videos, different lyrics, different, all of that. There's still, you can tell who's doing what. Whereas Taylor does bounce between quite a lot of like sub genres of pop, that like if you were to show up in a pink bodysuit, you're not going to say, that's Evermore. Like she's so identifiable with all of her eras that you can pick apart the Lover from the Evermore, from the 1989, from the self-titled so well. And I think I just think it works really well. And I think to be able to section it off so strongly with each individual album, I think it's really fun.
It is really fun. The one thing that I sometimes wonder, and I'm interested to hear your opinion, is the one thing that's crossed my mind is what does she do when she runs out of colors? Because every album has a color. What does she do after that?
God, maybe she just like starts over. Like
Yeah.
you know how with her re-records they were a slightly different version of that color.
Oh, that's actually really
Like
smart. Yeah. Yeah.
like how 1989 originally everyone was like, this is a city album, this is New York City, this is bright lights, all of this stuff. And then the re-record was like, oh, this is like beachy, sunrise, calm, peaceful, even though it's the exact same songs, but like just by like minor changes in the coloring or the slight marketing and the imagery with the rollouts created a whole shift.
Mm.
So that could be something that like maybe she'd do is just kind of revisit depending on, I mean, I doubt she'll run out of colors, you know, but should it happen, I feel like that's an opportunity for her to revisit like the color green, for example, even though we associate it with self-titled, there's a lot of green in Reputation as well. So it's like there's kind of, it's all sprinkled all over. It's just picking that one standout moment to be like, ah, this captures the entire vibe of this entire rollout.
Mm. It's interesting you say that though, because you said that you think that her debut is green, but in my head, it's always been teal because it's like it's blue and green. So in my head, it's always teal, but also that's because I like see color when I listen to music and it is teal. But
Yeah, I think it's argued like both because the album
yeah,
cover is literally blue and green.
yeah,
So it's like, but I think because 1989 is so heavily blue that making self-titled green puts it apart, whereas teal you can argue that it's like a blue green, greeny blue, whatever it is, it just makes that distinct difference between. But I wasn't here for the self-titled era, so I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'm never gonna claim being a J1 with Taylor Swift because I was one. Like so going all the way back to 2006, the first big hit, Tim McGraw, just gets her all of this attention.
I mean, I remember my first like Taylor Swift song I remember hearing would have been Teardrops on My Guitar. Like obviously from that point I remember Love Story, I remember You Belong With Me, whatever, but like when you have that moment of reflection of like, oh no, I definitely have heard other stuff. I think Teardrops on My Guitar, I just remember the video
Mm,
and I did really, really love, and I still do to this day. I love Our Song.
that's a
I
good
think
one.
her little country twang and the music video for it is so like homely and sweet, and this like these massive like ball gown style dresses that she's got for the sake of like a little diner date or something. You're like, oh, that's so cute. But I do think, yeah, I think Our Song from self-titled has to be like my favorite. Even if people ask me nowadays like, what's your favorite Taylor song? Our Song. I never answer Our Song, but it's always in the back of my mind going, go on, say it just once.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that does stick out to me from the early eras is there's something about it that feels so like Victorian princess. And then that's why when you get to Love Story, where she references Romeo and Juliet, and then in her latest one, The Fate of Ophelia, like all of that to me, I'm like, yes, like because it's that little thing pun. It's that little invisible string that you see that Taylor's growing throughout all the albums, but there's still like hints of early Taylor within everything. So
I was quite literally thinking about that earlier when I was having a bath. I was thinking about like how people in art try and rewrite history and stuff, and then I was like, oh, who's a good example of that? And then I remember um, Taylor talking about the fate of Ophelia and being like, oh, I just changed her fate essentially. Like I changed that, and then she used that as an example for the Romeo and Juliet story and love story, and I was like, oh wow, the fact that we've landed on that, and I literally had that thought process maybe 2 or 3 hours ago, was like, okay.
this
Mm-hmm.
is the first moment where I remember being somewhat conscious enough to remember and take it in. So even though I was again still quite young, the video for You Belong With Me is my first early memory of Taylor Swift. And this era we've got Love Story, which I've mentioned how much that really meant to me. But yeah.
Like you, I remember the music video for You Belong With Me very, very well. Um, I remember the music video for Love Story being all over my TV at the time. I didn't really like love her at the time, but only because I was 10 years old. And where she was so radio friendly, she was just everywhere all the time in stores, on radio, on TV, everywhere. And it was just kind of at the time that I was like, I'm bored of hearing the same songs. Didn't really like understand the feeling of it at 10 years old, like you don't, but I knew that I was like bored of hearing the same songs, but I did always really like You Belong With Me. And I know that makes me sound like a weirdo pick me. I don't love it because of the message behind it, like stealing someone else's man or whatever. Not my vibe. But I just think it's such a fun little like video to go along with such a upbeat, sad song.
Mm. Yeah, no, the You Belong With Me video, again, I was quite young, and if you're to ask me like when I first came in, like 2010 would have been I had just started school, and that's like I feel like my age group, especially growing up in New Zealand, were like we really grew up on Taylor Swift was in every classroom playlist. It was in every talent show. Like I remember the end of year talent show where every single girl group did Shake It Off. I was probably the only person who didn't perform Shake It Off. I can't remember what song I did. I do remember because I grew up with hearing aids. I think I sang the chorus and then couldn't hear the music and ran off stage. But like weirdly, the You Belong With Me music video really sticks out and I remember it really clearly, and yet I don't feel like I really came into the fan space until 2010, which I was 5. So I don't know. At 5 at Speak Now. I wasn't 5 for Fearless, but the Speak Now era, again, I was still quite young. The one thing that really stuck out to me is Enchanted. Every girl loved that song. I loved that song. Um, a few years ago, we had a charity ball that I was a photographer, well, one of the photographers for, and it was themed Enchanted, and it was all done like that era, and there were like pretty flowers everywhere. And the big moment was at the end of the night. Like, I can't remember most of the night. I was working. It was really quite challenging to try and take it all in and also like keep working because they had a goal of how much money they needed to raise, so it went well into the night. In fact, it went well into the next day, but they ended on the song Enchanted, and that was such a magical moment, like because everyone had been like dancing nonstop with their boyfriends, and suddenly Enchanted comes on. The boys all get pushed to the side. The girls like, this is our moment, and they're all in their big, pretty dresses and they're dancing. And that to me is always what that song's been. So I don't know if you have a moment from the Speak Now era that like really stands out, but that's my one.
Not like that. On Enchanted, though, I will say my best friend's little sister walked down the aisle to a piano version of it, and it was stunning. I was in tears. Um, but from the Speak Now era, I think my first ever like Taylor Swift song, I was like, I love this song, is The Story of Us.
That's good. That's a good one.
That is top 3 all time favorite Taylor songs. I love it so much. I will also say on the Speak Now era, Better Than Revenge, the OG version is so much cooler than the re-recorded. I understand why she did what she did. I understand the lyric change because she wanted to be a girl's girl. Sometimes people need to be slut shamed, okay? And sometimes it needs to be written in a song called Better Than Revenge, and sometimes those changes don't need to be made, Taylor. But it's
I
okay, she
agree.
owns all of her stuff now, so we can listen to it. Yay!
Yeah, I used to listen to the Taylor's version but say the other word over it, because if you're listening to Better Than Revenge, it's because you're angry. You need that line.
No, but yeah, the story of us is just, and the music video for it, it's like dark academia, and I haven't even watched it probably since it came out, but I just love it. It's stuck with me forever. Every time people talk to me about Taylor Swift visuals, that is one of the first music videos that pops into my head. And the sound, like not just like, yay, it sounds fun, like it's a good song, but like the kind of rockier edge to it, I think really, really worked well. And I think there are a handful of songs throughout her discography that have that rockier edge, that every single time she does it, I'm like, damn, this is really good.
Yes.
But I can appreciate why she doesn't do it a lot, because I feel like as an artist, she would maybe get fatigue, or as listeners, we would maybe get fatigue if she did the same one thing all the time. So when she does have those like bursts of like, here's a slightly different sound, I'm like, yes, yes. And I get so excited by it. And then I'm like, okay, anyways, back to normal scheduling.
Yeah. Red is one that I appreciate more and actually love more as a re-record, because I was old enough and mature enough to go back and appreciate it. So
Yeah.
like, don't get me wrong, the Eras Tour moment of We're Never Ever Getting Back Together, where Cam pops up and said something like, I know that we didn't get a New Zealand date, but the Australian dates, when he pops up and he goes, nah mate, like that to me was hilarious, because I like to imagine what he would have said if there was a New Zealand date. And I love how it was so personalized to every part of the tour. I think that's something that her and her team do really well, is they give the fans that moment where it feels like everyone's appreciated from wherever they're coming from. So that was, and of course, Red gave us the 22 hat as well, which is just, I think, the cutest moment ever, seeing how excited those little girls get. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that was really cute. I just wish that, I mean, I can only really talk on the Eras tour. I never saw her live before that, so like I don't really know what happened on all the other tours. That's a whole other story. But I just wish songs like Holy Ground got some love, and I understand why Forever Winter doesn't. But I think that's such a beautiful song that it would have been nice to have some kind of, maybe in one of the acoustic sets somewhere, maybe if even if she didn't do it live, but maybe if she added it into the movie or into the documentary or something, that she was just in her own space doing it for herself. But I understand obviously why that can't happen. But I just wish the red era and the Speak Now era on tour, I think we're lacking. And I think because I'm only saying that because I think Red, she did a lot of the singles, which were a lot of fan favorites, which are fine, like great. But like the people who are paying the money to be there are because they love your music, not just the hit singles that everyone hears on the radio, but because they love your albums. We want to hear album tracks. At least I do.
Yeah. No,
I can listen to
I
the
agree
singles
with
all the
that.
time. I mean, I can listen to the albums all the time, but like, if you're going on a greatest hits tour, fine. But you weren't. You were going on an eras tour that showcases the best parts of every era. And I just don't think that the Red era captured Red well.
Red's a
It picked
really
like
hard
all of
one.
the
Yeah.
it picked all of the like upbeat, cutesy, easy songs, but like Red is actually quite an emotional album. And I think the only song that really did it in that era on the Eras tour was the All Too Well.
Yes, because I was going to say, like, the Red era for me is actually one that I struggle with, because that a lot of people are like, oh, Red's such a lovely album. And I'm like, are we listening to the same album? Like,
It's heart wrenching.
yeah, yeah. Like, there are albums where people expect you to be sad, like Tortured Poets Department, they expect you to be going through it. And yes, don't get me wrong, that is the case. But Red is one, although it may be because for me that's also tied to a boy, because like how for every era, like there's the colors and everything that Taylor does and the different brandings. For me, growing up with Taylor Swift, every era is either tied to a friend or a situation or a guy or something. But all too well, it's really like such strong imagery, and I feel like that's what Red is. It's emotional, it's strong imagery, it's like I would have loved, as you said, to have seen more of that. Like I feel like Reputation really got that, where it was really like you really got into again, I didn't go to the shows, but from what I've seen, that era was like the vibe of Reputation was so strong throughout the stadiums, throughout everything. I would have loved to have seen that with Red, because Red kind of felt like, let's just take a moment to do like greatest hits and have like the viral moment, rather than let's have a moment to just like sit in this heartbreak. But
we didn't even get the title track. We didn't even get Red. And I love that song.
that one's amazing. Like the imagery for that one is also really, really strong. And for me, that one's also really interesting because you've got Loving Him was Red, and then you've got later on she goes into So Scarlet It Was Maroon. So you talked about different shades, and you know, I think of Red as like this burning passionate, and then like Scarlet Maroon is like blood and wine spills and like not as lovely. So that's also something that I thought was like really interesting. Again, of like every little, like obviously you've got these different eras, but overall her discography is her life. It's her open diary. So seeing those little bits connect, like, yeah.
I love 1989.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But this one, well, I loved it, but the appreciation only grew later when you stopped hearing those same hits on the radio day after day after day. Because Shake It Off, Wildest Dreams, Style, Blank Space, Bad Blood are like some of the most played songs on New Zealand radio. Like, if you're doing a road trip, you're going to hear at least one of those. Maybe twice. So, yeah.
See, I feel like only talking about the singles doesn't do the albums justice.
No.
Because my favorite from 1989 is Clean. It always will be. That is like my favorite Taylor Swift song. Like I go back to the Story of Another Us. No, that's a 5-star song. I go back to the Story of Us, and I say that that's like, yes.
Story of Another Us is not a Taylor Swift title as well?
No, The Story of Us is a Taylor Swift title. The Story of Us, going back to that song, I said it was like top 3. Clean is number 1, always will be. That is just, Clean is just that girl for me, and I love it so much. I love the message it has. I love the calmness behind it. I love just everything about Clean. I think it's perfect, and I don't, whilst it doesn't fit the city vibe of the album like the initial marketing for it was, I think it does work perfectly in the beachy vibe of it. I think it works perfectly as a song regardless. Like I love that song, but if we're going on overall vibe of the album or like imagery or marketing or whatever, I think 1989 is one of the ones that you can really split into based on the marketing. Like you can look at the re-records of all the others and they all kind of still follow the same pattern, whereas 1989 I feel like does get split completely down the middle, but I think it works really, really well to be able to have the songs like Bad Blood and Shake It Off and Welcome to New York versus Clean and Wildest Dream.
All you had to do was Stay is one that really gets me, but Clean is really important to me. Like, and I agree with the beach thing because even before we had that like real beach moment, Clean to me always felt like waves crashing, waves crashing, waves crashing, and suddenly it's just calm. Like that, it's such a beautiful thing. The message behind it, um, the reclaiming of it. Because didn't she do the re-records right around the time where she won that court case, or am I completely messing up the timeline now?
I don't know the timeline of stuff like that.
I feel like it was. I at least remember her mentioning that song in regards to winning the court case, and that song had always felt a bit like it was about that anyway. It kind of always was for me. Like Clean took on its own meaning in my story. Do with that what you will. But that was always one that was really amazing. And Welcome to New York was just like that was a really big one because as we all grow up, we all have those like similar feelings and thoughts of like I've made it, but like, oh my goodness, I'm on my own now, which again, that one is then also reflected in You're on Your Own Kid, which I love to talk about the connections I feel with the songs, and you're gonna get a lot of that in this episode. um, but the re-records and like the vault tracks for 1989 also made me look at the story of that album a very different way.
I was thinking of Slut because that's my favorite one.
Slut's a good one. That's
I love Slut so much.
when the 1989 Taylor's version came out, I was living at my uncle's, and he was on a business trip, so I listened to the whole thing, just sat in the lounge, listened to the whole thing. But that whole era, my uncle actually went out and bought me my own headphones because I was listening to it on the TV that much, and he was so sick of Slut and Clean and Welcome to New York practically on repeat because that was my thing at the time. I'm like, I love this, and when I love music, it just happens to be on repeat until the next thing comes out or the next moment happens. One thing I did note is Shake It Off and Blank Space in 1989, at least I feel, really talk about the headlines and what people were saying about her and how she doesn't identify with that, which I think is really interesting because the era after 1989 is Reputation. And it's almost like this little moment where you begin to see the cracks of like, this is gonna be the next thing. And it almost feels really like, I don't know. I just think it's interesting that that connects from like Shake It Off and Bad Blood and like these. Everyone thinks that I'm like this, but I'm really not. And in Reputation, which is like, this is who I am, like coming at it hard. But I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from because I know she has outright said that Shake It Off was about like basically laughing everything off and like having fun with like disregarding what people are saying, and that Blank Space was like, oh fine, they want to paint me this way, I'm going to act like this way. Yes. But then I think where she took the break, because obviously what sparked Reputation was the whole Kanye and Kim situation. So while I think it's in the same vein, I don't think it's the same reasonings. Like, yeah, it's to do with headline and it's to do with the attention that she was getting, but I think one of them's more of a generic overview of this is how the public perceive me, whereas the other one was like, oh, the whole industry is shunning me out because these two really powerful people have manipulated and twisted something to be a way that it's not. And then she had her come back and it was still getting twisted. I love Reputation, and I don't think it's the album that people think it is. I think people think it's like this bad bitch, like just baddie, grab life by the balls kind of album. I don't think it's that at all. I think it genuinely is her most romantic, soppy album. It's only like 2 songs on there that maybe have that like baddie energy behind it that's like, look what you made me do, I'm ready for it. That's like, yeah, let's go. And then the rest of it is like New Year's Day, Dancing with Our Hands Tied, like such romantic, sweet, loving songs because she is falling in love in the process of this album. It's just so cute.
Yeah. I find it less to be a fighting album and more to be a, well, everyone hates me. I'm just going to lay all of myself out in this album. Like, I agree. Ironically, a lot of the Reputation songs are songs that I would put on like a playlist that is more romantic leaning. Um, because she fell hard. What's really interesting is Reputation songs feel more lover like and lover songs not so much in terms of, well, in terms of how people define Reputation and Lover, not in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how Taylor has defined Reputation and Lover. It almost feels like things are a little bit backwards of how people have interpreted those two. I don't know if many people would agree with that, but like
I
because
do I do think Lover is still a very romantic album, but I think it's really important to know that when you're listening to it, like obviously with the making of Reputation, it was about her partner at the time and how she was feeling and how she was falling in love. That's great. And then with Lover, she was worried about her craft and she was worried that she wouldn't still be able to write love songs whilst she was in this like happy, loving relationship. So she experimented and essentially it's all like fake, right? I say that in quotes because there's only so much you can do without pulling from real life feelings and without pulling from real life experiences. So I do think there's a level of realism to it, but I do think Lover with songs like Daylight and Afterglow and Lover and Cornelia Street and I just think it is very very romantic, but I think it's romantic in like a pop happy yay kind of like giddy way, whereas
mm,
Reputation is more romantic in like a sultry crushing longing way. Like I feel like they're both romantic for sure, but I think there's very different approaches to it where a Reputation is like this kind of sexy, raunchy, but like still vulnerable, whereas Lover is like, okay, we're in this is great, I'm happy, there's this honeymoon phase and everything's great. And there's
mm,
it's kind of taking away the sexiness of it, but putting that like purity into it of like this really sweet innocence behind the love, whereas Reputation is like a bit more of a chase of like, oh, this is really fun. This is really like scandalous.
yeah, and that naturally will happen as well because you have to consider where Taylor was at that time, and so Lover is like, we're in this, I've fallen, you already know that. Reputation is like, it's a little bit scandalous, but I love you and let's just see where this goes. And I feel amazing and notice me. You're gonna notice me because I feel great, I look great. Like, so you are gonna have that difference because there's a different feeling, there's a different vibe, there's a different, I mean, everything. Cornelia Street on Lover is one that I find really interesting because you can look at it from multiple different aspects. It kind of feels like, I mean, for me, it feels like a revolving door because it could be, we're in love, I've left Cornelia Street, I never need to walk it again. It could be, if you leave me, I can never go back to Cornelia Street. Like, that one I love because it feels like it can fit in any playlist in any feeling. Like, I have both listened to Cornelia and Street and been like, this is the most romantic song ever. And I have listened to it and been like, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna walk Cornelia Street again. He left me. Like, it it's really interesting when a song can do that, where it can feel like it fits both narratives. And that's what I feel like with Lover is, it's, at least for me, it feels like most of those songs can fit both narratives, except for the actual title track, where that one's just deep in love. Like, you can't rewrite that. You cannot. Could you?
I love Lover. the song. I love Lover the song. I love Lover the album, but I love Lover the song. I think there are parts in Lover the song that are a bit like, oh, that's actually not that great. Not in terms of writing, but like what she's saying. You're like, oh, that's actually a little bit negative. Like where like the bridge specifically where she's talking about like dirty jokes and saving a seat and blah blah blah. It's like, well, why are you not already doing that together? Why do you have to be that step ahead, essentially? But that's a whole thing. It might just be my trauma talking through the song. But
Could be.
I do think I have the album in front of me. Um, Lover is for sure a highlight of the album. The Archer I think is beautiful. I think whilst I always say on social media that I hate repetitive songs, when the repetitiveness has an intention, like it does in The Archer, it's it's just beautiful. I think The Archer is stunning. I think He Knows is one of my favorites. I think it's just so upbeat and happy, and oh, I love it.
Cheeky as well.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna disagree with you here on Cornelia Street, and I think it's one of my least favorites in her like entire discography. I just really don't. I can appreciate it for what it is, and I do like some of the lyrics and stuff. There's just a disconnect with me in that song, and I don't know why. It just doesn't hit sometimes. Death by a Thousand Cuts, my surprise song. Death
You're
by a Thousand Cuts
surprised?
was my one of two surprise songs that I got in at my London show.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I
Death
went
by a
to
Thousand Cuts is
went
just
to
so
London
lovely.
night
It's just,
8, I think it was.
oh yeah,
I see me and my friend, we got tickets the day before the show.
really.
Um, I'm I'm a lover girly through and through. My best friend is a reputation girly through and through, like outward facing. If you look in like into our souls, it's a whole different thing. But like outwardly, I'm very like glittery, pink, floral, yay. And she's very like dark, leather. So it's like so going into that show with those two things, it was fun. But we were like, we keep seeing things online of people saying like she never sings the song you want her to sing, but she'll sing the song she needs you to hear, whether you're like aware of it or not. The surprise song you get is like somehow perfect for your situation. And we were like, okay, cool. Well, these are the songs we want. And then we were like, these are the songs she's already sung that have killed me. Like she played Clean at another London show, and I was like, great, cool. Well, she's not going to sing that, is she? But going into the show as a lover girl and a reputation girl, and then having the mashup be Death by a Thousand Cuts and Getaway Car, stunning.
Oh,
Stunning.
that would have been great.
Fantastic. With Jack Antonoff. And they did the mega bridge. They did the Getaway Car bridge with the Death by a Thousand Cuts bridge, and it was just beautiful. Anyways, my best friend's song off this album is False God. She hates Lover, the album, because she's not a lover girly at all, but she always goes back to False God. Love it. It's so sexy, it's so jazzy, it's just ooh. And
Yep.
Afterglow and Daylight I think are beautiful. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but It's Nice to Have a Friend is actually quite a sweet song.
That one I struggle with. That one I just like get so emotional. Like I just feel everything at once. So I can't listen to it, but I appreciate what you're saying. And I also feel that way of Soon You'll Get Better. I love it, but I can't listen to it just like regularly because that one, that just like every single emotion ever comes up. I'm like, it's okay. Yeah. Lover is just so honest, and that's what really gets me with that. And I also appreciate like throughout this, appreciate that we don't have the same opinion on songs because it means that neither of us have gone into this being like, I'm just going to talk about the hits and I don't actually really know what I'm talking about. Like, it's like music series because I appreciate that, like, while we love some of the same artists, we are not seeing it the same way. And that's really amazing.
I mean, that's ultimately what art is, though. Like, everyone always is like, art's up for interpretation. Yes, obviously. But then when you're put in these situations where you do have these discussions and you are able to talk about an artist that we both mutually love, we both love Taylor Swift, but being able to go into it and not knowing each other's opinions on different albums or different songs and hearing them and being able to disagree, but still be like, I can see where you're coming from, or I understand why she did that, or creatively I get it, but I don't like it and stuff. It's like that's what I think builds the communities really well within these like fan spaces. Because if everyone went into it and was like, I really like all of the singles from all of the albums and that's it, that's boring.
Yeah.
And I know that I have controversial takes on a lot of artists. Like I just said, with It's Nice to Have a Friend, I think is actually a really sweet song, but I know it's like not a fan favorite. I'd go as far as to say that New Year's Day is one of the best off of Reputation. And again, I know it's not a fan favorite. And it's the same with like some really popular songs I don't like. And but like they're popular for a reason, so get it, girl. Like, okay.
Mm. I will not buy an album if all I like are the singles. My personal favorite, which it's my favorite and yet it's the hardest one for me to be able to try and import, Folklore. I remember exactly where I was for Folklore and Evermore. Folklore, I that one was really special because it was a really rough year. 2020 was a really rough year. And I just had this feeling I'm like, something's got to happen because I need music. And then that came out. And those songs are just, that whole album is its own story. And I love it. Like, Cardigan is just, like, for me, it's a fireplace. Like, Exile, I love how that sounds. I love it, love it, love it. And just like I can't even express how much I love Folklore. But there was 2 years where it was played over and over and over and over. Like I love it so much. Um Betty, that is one that I was worried about how it was going to be done live because it's such a good one for movement and for telling it with your whole body and with dance. And so I was worried about how it would look live. Um, I'm happy with how it looks live. However, I feel like that could have been its own big moment. Like, I okay, I really want a theatrical music video for it. I want to see that love triangle, and I what she did for All Too Well with that whole short film. I want that with that love triangle from Folklore. That may just be me because like I love if there's like songs and movies and then like short films and little like I love it when one piece of art becomes multiple different variations of that piece of art. So I I'd love a TV show. I would love like further exploration into that love triangle. Um yeah, I don't know. I could ramble on. Like August was one that I'm like that that song I love the story for. I hate what happens in that love triangle. Great American Dynasty, that's also Folklore. That one gets me so excited every time because the reveal in the song is just I love how you listen to it and you think, oh, this is the way it's going, this is the way it's going, and then she goes, this is what they think of me. Like that is amazing storytelling, but also like um it's very witty as well. So and that's how like folklore is. It's storytelling, it's deep, it's witty, it's all of the things, and I love it. However, I do know that there are some people who very controversially do not like folklore and Evermore because they feel like fans have expected that from every other album. Like, I've seen a bit of dialogue. I don't know if you've noticed that. Like,
No, I've seen that Folklore and Evermore are fan favorites.
so that's been it for part one of our deep dive on all things Taylor Swift. You'll have to come back next week to see how this conversation ends. Thanks for watching. Have a groovy week.